Some fears are universal. Fear of the dark, fear of being alone, fear of what waits just beyond what we can see. But what if a place existed that combined all of them, and then added a new, deeper terror, the fear of going down? Imagine a staircase. It's not in a haunted house or some forgotten ruin. It's on the campus of a normal, busy university, behind a single, plain-looking door. A door that opens to a flight of stairs that only goes down. A staircase with no end. A concrete abyss that descends into pure blackness. And from the depths, you can hear something. A child crying for help. You'd want to help, wouldn't you? You'd feel the pull to go down. But the people who know about this place, a secret group called the SCP Foundation, have one simple rule. That door stays locked. No one goes in. No one comes out. Because they know the truth. The staircase is a trap, and you are the prey. This is the story of SCP-087, the stairwell. And the terrifying question it asks isn't what's at the bottom? It's what if there is no bottom at all? On a university campus, its location a closely guarded secret, there is a building, and on one of its floors there is a door. To the students and staff who walk by every day, it looks like a simple janitor's closet. That is by design. The door is actually reinforced steel with a powerful electronic lock. It's disguised to look like wood, but that is a lie. Behind this door is SCP-087. The SCP Foundation classifies this anomaly as Euclid. For those who don't know their system, it means the object is unpredictable. They know where it is and they've kept it contained, but they don't fully understand it. And what they don't understand, they fear. The containment procedures themselves tell a terrifying story. The steel door has 6 separate, heavy-duty locks. The keys are kept apart, held by 6 different senior officials. Opening the door requires a coordinated effort, a deliberate choice by multiple people. Can't be opened by accident. Can't be opened by a single curious person. The area is monitored by security cameras. At least 2 armed guards are posted nearby at all times. Any students or staff who try to tamper with the door are detained, questioned, and given a Class C amnestic. They wake up with a hole in their memory. No recollection of the strange door that caught their eye. Their curiosity is erased for their own good. And the most important rule, the one that is never broken, no one is allowed access to SCP-087. This rule wasn't always there. It was written in the blood and terror of those who went first. The Foundation had to learn the hard way that some doors should never be opened. So what requires such extreme security? What is SCP-087? When the 6 locks are turned and the heavy steel door groans open, it reveals a small, dark platform. Directly ahead, a flight of concrete stairs goes down into blackness. The stairs are about 5 feet wide, set at a steep 38-degree angle. Each flight has 13 steps before hitting another small, semicircular platform. Then, the staircase turns 180 degrees and continues down. This pattern never changes. 13 steps, a platform, a turn, another 13 steps, over and over. Perfect, repeating downward spiral. There are no windows, no other doors, no change in the design, just cold, gray concrete. The most unsettling feature is the light, or rather, the complete lack of it. The stairwell seems to swallow light. Even the most powerful floodlights used by exploration teams could only light up the first flight and a half. Beyond that, about 250 feet down, is a wall of impenetrable darkness. No light source has ever been able to pierce it. It's a physical, tangible blackness that swallows everything. But the design and the darkness aren't the main anomaly. The real horror of SCP-087 is what you hear. From somewhere in the depths, you can hear a child. It sounds like a young girl, maybe 7 to 10 years old, crying and pleading for help. Her voice is filled with genuine distress. Logically, as you go down the stairs, you should get closer to the sound. The crying should get louder, clearer, but it doesn't. No matter how many flights an explorer goes down, the child's cries never seem to get any closer. The sound always feels like it's about 600 feet below. A constant, agonizing lure, forever pulling you deeper, but never letting you reach her. A phantom promise of a rescue that can never happen. And there is one more thing. Something the Foundation only discovered after sending people down. You are not alone on the stairs. There is something else in the darkness with you. It's been designated SCP-087-1. All we know for sure comes from the terrified, broken accounts of those who saw it. It is a face with no visible pupils, no nostrils, and no mouth. It just hangs in the dark, watching. To see it is to know a terror so complete, it breaks the human mind. The official records stop there, but the implication is clear. Once you see the face, you do not come back up. To understand this place, the Foundation authorized 4 explorations. These were done using D-class personnel. A grim necessity for the Foundation. These are death row inmates used to interact with the most dangerous anomalies. Their lives are considered expendable. Their experiences, however, are priceless. The audio and video from these expeditions are the stuff of nightmares. The first exploration was led by a man known as D9884. He had a 75-watt flood lamp, a camera with a live feed, and a headset to talk to the control team. He was a hardened criminal chosen for his nerve. They told him he was exploring a new cave system. They lied. The steel door opened. He stepped onto the platform. The first thing he noticed was the sound, the faint crying. The control officer, Dr. Brantley, ordered him down the first flight. The man hesitated. His confidence was already cracking. The door sealed behind him, plunging him into a deeper dark, lit only by his lamp. He descended. 1 flight, 2 flights. The crying continued, never getting louder, never fading. He described the oppressive silence between the sobs. There was no echo. His own footsteps, his own breathing, felt muffled, swallowed by the stairwell. Flight 7, his voice crackled. Sounds the same, not getting any closer. Acknowledged, came the calm reply from control. Please continue. He kept going. Flight 10, Flight 15. His breathing got heavier. He was tired, but it was more than that. He was getting scared. The endless repetition of the descent was a kind of psychological torture. Concrete, steps, platform, turn, again, and again. At the 17th flight, he stopped. I hear something else, he whispered. Control asked him to describe it. He couldn't. He said it was a low rumbling sound, but he wasn't sure. He was getting paranoid. He was ordered to continue. He descended to the 22nd flight, then the 50th. He had now traveled a distance that should have put him far below the university's foundation, far below the bedrock itself. The laws of physics no longer applied here. Then, at what they estimated was the 89th flight, he froze. His breathing hitched. What do you see? The control officer asked, his voice suddenly urgent. The man didn't answer for a moment. When he did, his voice was a choked whisper. There's a face. Can you describe it? It's just looking at me. It's just white eyes. No pupils. The video feed, which had been stable, began to flicker. For a fraction of a second, the control team saw it. A pale, smooth oval, floating in the dark right at the edge of the light. 2 black pits where eyes should be. The man screamed. It wasn't a yell. It was a raw, animal sound of pure terror. The camera shook violently as he turned and began to run. Not down. He was trying to get out. The audio feed filled with his panicked gasps and the frantic pounding of his feet on the concrete. The child's crying was now mixed with his own screams. The control officer yelled at him to calm down, to turn around, to keep the camera on the entity. But the man was lost to reason. He was running faster than he'd gone down. The flight numbers he'd been calling out were a blur. He was moving impossibly fast. But as he ran, the sound of the child's crying grew louder. For the first time, it was getting closer, but it was coming from above, the direction he was running toward. Then, a new sound, a scraping, dragging noise. It was behind him, and it was gaining on him. The man's screams became more desperate. The video feed was a chaotic swirl of light and shadow. Then the camera caught it again. The face. It wasn't at the bottom anymore. It was right behind him. It filled the frame. There was a final, horrifying shriek. The audio cut to static. The video feed went black. The Foundation had lost contact. They had their first piece of the puzzle. They now knew what SCP-087-1 looked like, and they knew it was hostile. After the disastrous first exploration, the Foundation waited. They analyzed the data. They debated the risks. But the mystery was too powerful. They needed to know more. So, a second expedition was approved. This time, they chose a different D-class, D-9035. The equipment was similar, but with a stronger light and a better camera. The subject was told about the first expedition. He was told about the face. They thought knowing what to expect might give him an advantage. They were wrong. The descent began just like the first. The door sealed. The darkness closed in. The sound of the child began its relentless, hypnotic call. D-9035 was more talkative, describing everything he saw and felt. He noted a strange smell, like old rust and damp earth. As he descended past the 50th flight, his composure started to break. He kept saying he felt like he was being watched. A cold prickle on the back of his neck. The control team tried to reassure him, told him it was just nerves. At about 500 feet down, the subject stopped. He said the child's crying had changed. It sounded more frantic, more desperate, and now it was mixed with another sound, a strange clicking noise. Control told him to proceed with caution. He took a few more steps down, and then he screamed. The camera swung wildly. He yelled that he'd seen it. The face. It was just at the edge of his light, peeking around the corner of the next platform. He didn't run. He just stood there, frozen in terror, his breath coming in ragged sobs. "It's not moving," he stammered. "It's just watching me." The control officer, in a calm but firm voice, ordered him to slowly back away, to go back up the stairs. The subject obeyed, his eyes never leaving the darkness below. He backed up one flight, then two. The face stayed where it was, a pale ghost in the gloom. Then the subject whispered, "It's gone." The spot where the face had been was now empty. There was a moment of tense silence, broken only by his breathing and the distant crying. The control team was about to order a full retreat when the subject let out a strangled gasp. "What is it?" Control demanded. "What do you see?" "It's not gone," the man whimpered. "It's not below me anymore. It's on the ceiling." The camera tilted up. For a split second, the feed showed the pale, eyeless face of SCP-087-1, hanging upside down from the ceiling of the platform just above him. It was looking directly into the camera. Its mouth, which wasn't visible before, was now open in a silent, black O. The feed cut out. All audio was lost. The second exploration had ended just as brutally as the first. The Foundation now knew two more things. The entity was not bound by gravity, and knowing about it offered no protection at all. The third exploration was considered the most important. The Foundation needed more data, and they would risk another life to get it. The subject was D-8432, a man with a history of extreme violence. They hoped his psychopathic detachment would make him a more reliable observer. He had the standard gear plus a small, high-powered LED flashlight as a backup. He was a man of few words, descending the flights in silence, only answering direct questions. He seemed unfazed by the crying, by the oppressive dark. He passed the point where the first subject met the face. He passed the point where the second was lost. He just kept going down, flight after flight. The control team watched, breathless, as he descended deeper than anyone before. At an estimated depth of over 1,300 feet, the equivalent of a 120-story skyscraper buried underground, he stopped. "I'm on a platform," he said, his voice flat. "It's different." "Different how?" asked the control officer. "There's a hole in the floor." The camera panned down. In the center of the concrete platform was a dark, circular pit, about 3 feet across. The subject shone his light into it, but the beam was swallowed by the darkness. It was another abyss inside the abyss. Control ordered him to examine it, but not to go in. As he leaned over the edge, the audio picked up a new sound. Faint at first, a rhythmic scraping, like stone grinding on stone. But it wasn't coming from the pit. It was coming from behind him, up the stairs. "Did you hear that?" he asked, the first hint of alarm in his voice. He turned, shining his light back up the flights he had just come down. The staircase was empty. He was ordered to continue his descent. He stepped around the pit and onto the next flight of stairs. The scraping sound grew louder. It was definitely behind him, and it was getting faster. "Something's coming down after me," he said, his voice now tight with panic. He started moving faster, taking the steps 2 at a time. The scraping sound turned into a rapid clattering, echoing through the stairwell. He glanced over his shoulder. "I see it," he shouted. "It's the face. It's coming down the stairs." The camera shook as he broke into a full sprint. The clattering from behind was now a deafening roar. But then, another sound emerged, even more terrifying. From the darkness below him, up ahead, he heard the same clattering sound. He was trapped. The entity was behind him, and another one, or the same one, moving at impossible speed, was now in front of him. He skidded to a halt on a platform, swinging his light back and forth between the darkness above and the darkness below. The video feed showed it clearly. From the flight above, SCP-087-1 was descending. It wasn't floating. It was crawling, its unseen limbs scraping the concrete. And from the darkness below, another face was rising to meet him. The subject was surrounded. He let out a wordless scream and pointed his camera straight down. The face from below was now just a few feet away, its empty eyes seeming to stare directly into his soul. His last transmission was a single, gargled word. "No!" The line went dead. The third exploration proved that SCP-087-1 was not a single entity, but possibly many, or maybe one entity that could be in multiple places at once. The Foundation was no closer to understanding it, and they had lost another life. There would be only one more attempt. For the final, fourth exploration, the Foundation wouldn't risk another human life. They used a remote-controlled rover like the ones used for space exploration. It had a high-definition camera, powerful lights, and sensitive microphones. It was their last, best hope to map the depths of SCP-087 without bloodshed. The rover was deployed onto the top platform. The steel door was sealed for what the Foundation hoped was the last time. The little machine whirred to life, its treads gripping the concrete as it began its slow, methodical descent. The view from the rover's camera was sterile, mechanical. The same repeating architecture, the same oppressive darkness. But the microphone picked up the same chilling sound, the crying of the child. This was a crucial discovery. The sound was not a hallucination. It wasn't a psychological trick. It was a real, physical sound wave, present even when no one was there to hear it. The rover trundled on, down and down, far past the points where the human explorers met their end. It descended for hours. The depth measurements became meaningless. The rover was now, theoretically, miles beneath the surface of the Earth. The control team watched, mesmerized by the slow, unending journey into nothing. And then the video feed glitched. For a single frame, an image flashed on screen. Too fast to see. The operators rewound the footage and slowed it down. The image was a close-up of a human eye wide with terror. They checked the logs. It matched the eye of D-8432 from the final moments of the third expedition. The glitches became more frequent. Split-second images of the explorers' final moments. A flash of a hand. A silent, screaming mouth. The stairwell wasn't just a physical space. It seemed to hold echoes of the terror that happened inside it. The rover continued its descent, the child's crying a constant, sorrowful soundtrack. The team decided to push the machine as far as it would go. It reached a depth that was, by all calculations, impossible. And then it stopped. The rover had reached a platform, but it wasn't turning. The camera panned slightly to the left, and the control room fell silent. Ahead, at the very edge of the rover's light, was SCP-087-1. The face. It was just standing there, at the top of the next flight of stairs. Motionless. The control team had a choice: retreat or approach. Driven by the need for answers, they gave the command to move forward. Slowly, the rover's treads began to turn, inching it closer to the silent figure. The face didn't move. It just watched as the small machine got closer. 10 feet, 5 feet. The camera was now focused entirely on the pale, smooth features. The empty sockets that passed for eyes seemed to absorb the light, to absorb all hope. The rover was now just inches from the entity. The detail on the camera was incredible. They could see the texture of its skin, like polished marble. They could see the deep, black voids of its eyes. The control team held their breath, waiting for it to react. And then it did. The face lunged forward. In one sudden, impossibly fast movement, it filled the entire camera lens. The last image the Foundation received from SCP-087 was a perfect, high-definition close-up of that eyeless, mouthless, soulless face. The video feed turned to static. The audio link was severed. The rover was gone. The fourth and final exploration was over. The Foundation had their answer. They could not explore SCP-087. They could not map it. They could not understand it. To observe it was to invite its attention. And its attention was fatal. The order was given. All exploration of SCP-087 is forbidden. Permanently, the 6 locks on the steel door were engaged. The guards were posted. The anomaly was contained, but it was not understood. The stairwell remains, a silent wound in our reality, buried beneath a normal university campus. It waits. The questions it raises are as deep and dark as the stairwell itself. What is the source of the crying? Is it a lure, or a real victim, trapped in that hellish place? Where does the staircase lead? To another dimension? Or does it simply go down forever? A physical descent into madness? And what of the face? What is SCP-087-1? A guardian? Predator? A resident of the abyss? We may never know. The Foundation's file is closed. The door is locked, but the mystery endures. The child is still crying, somewhere in the dark. And the face is still watching, waiting for the next person curious enough, or foolish enough, to open the door and take that first step down. Mysteries like the endless stairwell are a stark reminder that there are corners of our world that defy explanation. If you find these descents into the unknown as fascinating as we do, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for more explorations into the shadows. And if you want to see what happens when an anomaly isn't a place you can leave, but a place you can never escape from, check out our video on SCP-3008, the infinite, inescapable furniture store. The doors are open, but they don't lead out.